So let's dive into the numbers on who's favored and what are the win totals for these teams. Currently, the Philadelphia Eagles are favorites, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, at -140 to win the division. Dallas Cowboys, second, at +175 to win the division. Commanders coming in at 1,100, +1,100, and the Giants +1,600. So that's what it looks like from an overall standpoint. Let's dive into the win totals. Win totals for these teams. Dallas, 9.5 is set at the over-under. The over is the favorite at -144. So people think are going to, I mean, this is a good Dallas team. They're going to most likely get double-digit wins, we think. They're a great regular season team. They're stacked. I mean, they got a lot of players on this roster that are really good. So -144 on the over to get the at least double-digit wins. The under is +118. Going down to the Giants. Giants over-under set at 6.5. The under is the overwhelming favorite at -150. The over is +122. Philadelphia, 10.5 wins is the set over-under total for the Eagles. The over is the overwhelming favorite here at -148. The under is +120 for Philadelphia, which I don't know. Does the under look kind of juicy there? With I don't know.
They went 0-6 down the stretch, so
and they lost Jason Kelce. They're
the single greatest player in the NFL.
they lost a couple players, but they've been making some moves. We'll talk about them here in a minute. But the under +120 at 10.5 wins. Dallas and over -148. And Washington Commanders is 6.5 wins as well. That's what I said. Yeah, 6.5 wins, same as the Giants. The over is the favorite for the Commanders at -120. The under -102. Anything stand out to you guys? Scotty, what stands out to you on those over-under totals of those teams or the division?
Yeah, I think Dallas feels a weirdly low-ish, and Philly feels high, based off of what we saw last year. And I don't think Philly, correct me if I'm wrong, did they make some? I mean, they lost the leader of their offense. No disrespect to Jalen Hurts or anything like that, but Jason Kelce was the leader, of that team. I think
agreed.
That tush push, we'll see how that. Maybe it'll be the same without him, but that dude was the most athletic center I've ever seen in my life. Forget his charisma off the football field.
I mean, what he does dazzling. For the run game too.
Dazzling.
What he does.
Pulling and getting out in the open space, no one does it like Jason Kelce. They're gonna miss that. Obviously, they still have a good offensive line, but I have a hard time. And listen, I do think Jalen Hurts was hurt the second half of last year, and that affected his play, especially running the ball a lot. And now he's healthy, so maybe that changes everything. But as a thrower of the football, he's not. He's better than Lamar Jackson, but he still has some things to figure. I mean, he has so many weapons at his disposal. You're talking about AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and their tight end that I can't think of the name because I can never think of names. Dallas Goedert.
Saquon.
The Cowboys.
Yeah, should have thought of that. Those weapons are really, really good. And then they now add Saquon to the backfield. There's no excuses there for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts should have a prolific season. Will Saquon stay healthy? I mean, I feel like more often than not, he gets a little beat up. I love Saquon. I don't know if Saquon's the same player he was even 2-3 years ago. I think Saquon's going to help them, but I don't think he's a huge needle mover like I think a lot of people do. I think they overpaid for him. I would never pay that much for a running back that feels desperate. Also, I hate their fucking coach. So we'll get into that. I hate him.
Sirianni he's got a punchable face.
Just a douchebag. I feel like Dallas is low, Philly's high. The other teams,
I mean, the commies are high.
The Giants couldn't score touchdowns last year, and
I think the Commanders might win 7 games this year. The problem is they're at 6.5. Is that what you said, Chris?
6.5.
Yeah. I don't know if they could win 8. So I'm like literally hoping they win 7 if I'm betting them, because I don't know if they go 8 and 9. Jaden Daniels has some parts to him, and he's who are we going to talk about? I'm going to.
I mean, we can start with Washington. I'm down and start with Washington. Let's dive in on Washington here.
Let's dive into the Redskins football team Commanders.
Football commander skins, whatever you want to say. So Jaden Daniels is the guy that they're hitching their buggy to right here. Like, so Marcus Mariota's there, Jeff Driscoll. So you got a couple guys on that roster from a quarterback standpoint, but Jaden Daniels is the guy that they want to develop and hope that he turns into something big. Picked up Brian Robinson as well. We still got Brian Robinson, Terry McLaurin.
You said picked up Brian Robinson.
I mean, I'm sorry. They still have him. Sorry.
They picked up.
They have Austin Eckler.
Eckler is
a human being still.
Eckler, he's definitely not a guy.
None of us are high on Eckler.
None of us are high on Eckler, based off of his age and his injury history. He's not going to do much for them, either fantasy wise or production wise, because he's never on the field. So. You have that. Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin leading the wide receiver core for the Washington Commanders. So, yeah, I mean, I think that they have some promising up-and-coming vibes going in Washington. I'm like you. I feel like there's a little bit more hype than we typically get out of a Washington team. So, yeah, your thoughts on you think they could be better than with their win total potentially?
Well, a half win better, yes. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the most fun quarterback to watch this year as far as rookie quarterbacks. The highly drafted rookie quarterbacks. You could say Caleb Williams. I don't think it's going to be Drake May. No offense to Bo Nix, your boy, but as far as an excitement and what he can do on the field level, I think Jaden Daniels is going to offer the most. I'm a little higher on him from what I've heard in camp, and he didn't throw a ton of balls, but he played well in their preseason game with the little action he got. I think you have Terry McLaurin, you have Jahan Dotson, you have some really nice wide receiver options. I think the offense is actually going to have to carry this team. The defense, you sold your defensive line last year when you traded Young and Sweat on both edges. This offseason, Kendall Fuller was actually the best corner. They lost him in free agency. There's not a lot. The defensive interior is fine with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. That's a really solid interior on the defensive line, but man, there's a lot to desire. They took Jeremy Chin, who was the savior in Carolina when he was drafted, and then didn't live up to the hype at safety. So maybe he'll get back in that fold and be what he was initially. But there's not a lot on the defensive side of the ball. They traded away, and then they took a quarterback, which is fine. You're drafting that high, take a quarterback that you like. We'll see what Jaden Daniels can do. And he has some legit wide receivers to work with. But this offense or this defense is going to be tough.
Yeah.
They did get their top D-line picks last season. Davis at linebacker is going to be a beast this year, says Tickle.
How much can a linebacker do when the rest of your defense sucks, though? It's hard.
It's also, we're on complete opposite parts of the spectrum here, Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
I think they made a mistake by trading away Sam Howell. They traded him away. They failed to address the important part of the team. I mean, they got the center from Dallas, but that offensive line is still horrible. It's a good thing Jay Daniels can run because he's going to have no time in the pocket this year. Of course, that's going to severely hurt the run game, which means they're going to be relying a lot on Jay and Daniels to make plays. I don't think that's a recipe for success. I think Sam Howell, he played horribly at the end of the year last year, obviously, but I still think Howell has potential to be a very good gunslinger. I think they should have built an offensive line around him so he actually had time. And Howell actually set records for being sacked. And that's with the team constantly trying to keep him on the bench.
And now they drafted a guy that they hope doesn't get sacked as much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're going to be relying a lot on Jaden
I think they
Daniels
probably underrated Howell a little bit. I like Howell more than they probably did. And I agree with you in that sense. But, like, Howell wasn't the ultimate answer in my mind. So, like, when you're drafting that high, shoot your shot. Take a quarterback. Yeah. I don't know. You may not have that opportunity again.
It's the Commanders.
The offensive line you're sleeping on. They signed the great Nick Allegretti, the backup guard from the Chiefs, who filled in this past Super Bowl and with an injury after our starter got hurt in the AFC Championship game, and did phenomenally well. So how dare you comment on their offensive line? He will cover for all of those other 4 positions. No problem.
Commies now have a local owner passionate about the team winning. That means a lot. I mean, I feel like the change of
certainly the ownership's going to help.
I feel like the change of the environment and like just probably an uplifting more ownership group that's going to be a little bit more, in tune with the team and not making shit decisions, both morally and team wise. Like, it's going to be, I think that's a big upgrade as well. Milwaukee's, this division doesn't matter. Packers will beat them all. And then I love STG. Milwaukee big on Jordan Love now. No, he's not big on Jordan Love. He's bigger on.
No, he is now.
He's bigger on the Clifford, the big red dog, is who he's big on.
The Packers are not in this division, so.
Yeah.
Well, he says
the Packers will beat them all. Win.
I think the Commies only win 4 games this year. This is not. They have a good receiving core and I guess like a good interior defensive line and not much else.
Yeah. Worst part of ownership is Washington is the cameras no longer in the locker room, not the players' locker room. I mean, the culture is taking a shift, that's for sure.
The culture is actually damn good.
It's shifted a little bit. So there you go. So Washington. Yeah, I feel like, again, we're looking at what they can potentially do. They're sitting 3rd in odds in this division. I can see it. I could see finishing in that. I mean, just based off of the fact that the New York Giants are probably still in a weird spot that probably they're not gonna climb the ladder from last season very effectively. So let's shift to the Giants. Giants coming in. This is one of the worst offenses last year. They could not score touchdowns. They couldn't move the ball. Daniel Jones, we're trying to figure out, he's got some nice little flashes when he's healthy, but can he stay healthy is the other thing. Can't wait to see the official bets. Yeah, we're going to be doing bets. We're going to be doing bets on the over-unders like we do every year. But the New York Giants, they're picked to finish last in this division, and the over-under total again set at 6.5, which, oof. I struggle to see how this team got better. They lost Saquon, right? We already talked about Saquon moving teams and being out, but this Giants team probably isn't going to compete. And you're looking at Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary, Malik Neighbors, who, a kid that has a lot of promise and people are like really excited about. So you're surrounding him with some nice, Daniel Jones with nice pieces, but is it enough? And I just don't think it will be to compete even for, they'll be competing for 3rd place, maybe.
Yeah, when you talked about the odds earlier, it was like I think you said -140 for the Eagles to win the division, a plus 175. I feel like you said for the Cowboys.
Yep.
And for me, I'm like, just lay a bet on both those and lay more on the Eagles, and you'll probably profit because I don't know how the other two teams win this division. You look at this team, you get a healthy, quarterback and Daniel Jones back after a torn ACL, hopefully, but like he's only had one year where you're like, yeah, that dude's a legit star in the league. You lose your cornerstone of your offense to Saquon Barkley. You lose a guy you just traded for in Darren Waller to retirement at tight end. You trade for Brian Burns. I feel like this team just doesn't know who they are. I love Brian Burns as a player. A lot of teams should trade for Brian Burns. I don't think the Giants are in a position where they should have traded for Brian Burns. Where do you think you're headed with Brian Burns? Now you're paying him a lot of money, and you're not appreciably close in my mind. No disrespect. I do love Malik Neighbors a lot.
We liked him coming out of the draft.
I'm higher on Malik than probably anybody. I think he could be very much in the contention for Rookie of the Year and the best wide receiver that Daniel Jones has ever had. Like, you think about who he's had to throw to. That wide receiver core has been like Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton, Richie James, Kadarius Toney, who I'm pretty familiar with, like Sterling Shepard. No one since OBJ, and Daniel Jones and OBJ didn't really play together. So he's had no one in the wide receiver core. I think Malik Neighbors is instantly the best wide receiver he's ever had.
He's hurt.
Is he? I mean, he'll be fine. He'll play.
But then too, like, you don't have even running back. Like, Devin Singletary has never had a 900-yard season.
Yeah, he's very, very mid.
And he's
running. How much does running back matter?
I mean, they relied a lot on it with Saquon because they did. I mean, they needed to.
Maybe, or maybe it was to a fault.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they figured something out.
And I think it's one of those things where outside of Daniel Jones may lead this team in rushing potential. Like what are the chances, or what are the odds on leading rusher for the Giants being the quarterback? I mean,
we were talking about that the other day with another team. Who was it?
I mean, you could say that with
the quarterback leading the team in rushing yards. And then we covered the South last time. Was it? I don't think it was AR.
It must have been AR. Who else would have been?
I mean,
not over Jonathan Taylor, but who else is in that division?
Lawrence, Levis, and Stroud. And then the South doesn't really have runners. Carr, Baker, Bryce Young, and Cousins. So I guess
it must not have been there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just feel like we're talking about. I'm having deja vu. Like we were just talking about someone, like some quarterback leading the team in rushing.
I mean,
very recently.
It might be here. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's
Buffalo.
2 teams could be in Washington as well.
I mean,
Jane Daniels might lead them.
Buffalo has a quarterback that likes to run too and eat up yards. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Buffalo, yeah.
I mean, they have James Cook, who's decent.
No, I like
Pittsburgh. No, Russell Wilson's not going to run that much.
Jones is one play away from being out of the league with a neck issue. Says Jake. What's up, Jake Cross? How we doing?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's also this defense is not. They got Brian Burns, but like the secondary, the back end is a disaster. It's not good. You have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, who you hope turns into what you want him to be. He's a little inconsistent at the edges, and then you have a good interior with Dexter Lawrence and the defense tackle. So the defensive line is fine, really good, actually, in New York. But after that, it's just like, who's in the secondary? You lost Xavier McKinney, who was a big piece. Like, I don't even know. Deontay Banks and like Cordell Flott are like their starters. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem. I don't love the corner spot for them at all.
Dane Belton and Jason Pinnock at the safety.
Those are names that no one's heard of.
And here's the thing too. I mean, Daniel Jones, he has that hefty extension, right? Still a guy that hasn't surpassed 15 touchdown passes in a single year once. It's one of those things where it's like you hope that he can actually get some production. I mean, injuries haven't been on his side, obviously, but it's an uphill battle with this Giants team. I don't know if I'm a Giants fan. I don't know if I'm super excited about going into this NFL season. But
the main thing I'm interested about here is Brian Daboll, the head coach. A couple of years ago, he was the coach of the year, deservedly so. Had a great year. Last year, it was horrible. Everything went wrong. He had problems with his defensive coordinator who just up and left. So it's like, how does he rebound? We've seen one great year, one bad year. What happens this year with him?
I think I like Dable. I think I do.
I think I'm not entirely sure. I loved him after the first year. I think it was amazing. I agree. Like, he deserved Coach of the Year that year. He got it.
Yeah. So we'll see. But sometimes you got to hold the line, even if it doesn't have a good year. Maybe look at your roster and be like, no one's going to have a good year with this roster.
Yeah.
Like Scott said, this wide receivers have been trash, so Danny might throw for 18 this year and earn that dough.
That's about just over $2 million per touchdown pass. Yeah. No, that checks out.
That's still less than Kenny Golladay for touchdown catches.
Giants gave us their best player and didn't even want a big red dog.
They did not give you their best player.
The best player went to Philadelphia.
Speaking of Philadelphia, let's talk about Philadelphia. Philadelphia, we talked about Saquon Barkley, who Saquon joined Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert. This team offensively with the weapons that it has is right back to where we would have expected. Like they were kind of stacked in a lot of these areas last year. They added Saquon. They still have a coach, which Scotty loves to death, who got him to a Super Bowl.
I could not hate a person more.
But lots of CJ Garden-Johnson, Darius Slay Jr. on the back end. I mean, defense, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. So they had some. They
also brought in your boy Chris.
Did they? Who?
The defensive coordinator.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Vic Fangio coming in.
Which Vic Fangio?
Vic.
Has Vic lost his? I mean, I thought he was going to turn that Dolphins thing around, and he didn't exactly.
At very least, he's an upgrade by default. It's like, would you rather have him or Matt Patricia?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll take Fangio.
Fangio, I mean, he had some pieces on that Miami defense that he could have had some fun, with drawing up some schemes and stuff, but I thought he was going to do better for Miami, and he didn't do as well as I thought. So I don't know. Maybe he does better with this team here in Philadelphia. But Philadelphia made some moves to try to stay atop of this division. Again, they are currently the favorites at -140 to win this division and have the highest over/under total at 10.5.
Yeah, I mean they go for gold every year, and somehow they never have to rebuild fully, which is kind of confusing in Philly. But they're ready to just. Obviously, they lost their single most important player.
Jason Kelce's gone.
The center, the GOAT, the single greatest to ever do it. You add Saquon, which is a nice piece, but overpay. But that doesn't matter because you're still surrounded. It didn't cost them anything on other positions. You add Devin White at linebacker, obviously from Tampa. That's been a vet that can lead you. You still have even without Jason Kelce, you have a very, very good offensive line. They brought back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who they had a couple years ago when they made the Super Bowl, and he went to Detroit last year, and now he's back. He's a little hit and miss, but like he's a warrior and can like he won't put up with the bullshit they had defensively at the end of the year. Like he won't put up with that. You trade Hassan Reddick, but you get a little bit in return. Yeah, this team's talented, obviously. Their coach sucks. He sucks the big one. But this team was 10 they were 10-1 last year. And then they just fell off a map, right? So yeah. I think a little bit of that is Jalen Hurts was hurt. Pardon my
Jalen Hurts.
Pardon my pun. I think he was beat up. He didn't have the mobility. But he played so well in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs that it's hard for me. But like that consistency hasn't been there for me. So like this team can be up and down because you have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and all these weapons. Dallas Goedert, who now I can remember the name. Like,
yay, you did it.
You're really good at weapons. Now you have Saquon. You have a good offensive line, minus maybe Jason Kelce obviously missing, but still like Lane Johnson's one of the best tackles in the league. Like you have pieces. You have everything at your disposal if you're Jalen Hurts. There's no excuses. Defensively, you have a ton of high draft picks on the defensive line. We'll see how they pan out. Sometimes they get overhyped a little bit. Haven't really played to that, but you still have Darius Slay. You still have James Bradbury, who should be good, but like he's very hit and miss. And they're aging a little bit. They drafted like 2 corners in the draft, right? They drafted
yes.
the Iowa guy, Dijon.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean, the slot guy, and then they got one of the big ones in the first round. Yeah. One of the big outside ones
from Alabama.
Quinion?
It was from Alabama, right? I can't think of his.
No, I don't think so. I want to say it was Quinion Mitchell.
It was Quinion Mitchell. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, Nate Wiggins went to Baltimore. Now he's hurt, and then Kool-Aid went to Detroit.
Yeah, so they got Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So they invested in the back end, which they've spent prior to this a lot of assets on the defensive line and linebacking core somewhat. So this team is theoretically ready. I can't get over the fact that I hate their coach's face.
I mean, although at very least they do have a new offensive coordinator, one that you know a whole lot about. They got Kellen Moore.
That dude, I don't know. I mean, he was like everyone loved him. He was so great in Dallas, and then it was so great that the Chargers picked him up, and he lasted a whole year.
Yeah.
And I'm curious though. I mean, Jay Cross, you're from Philly. You're a Philly fan. What are people saying in Philly about the whole Jason Kelce? Because he was a big part of the tush push. And like, what are the people saying right now about his replacement? About like what that's gonna. I mean, again, there was an unprecedented 15 rushing touchdowns in 17 games for Jalen Hurts. So I mean, he was very, very influential when it came to how that team was led offensively. But I'm curious on what locally everything. I mean, and that's why we like to go to you guys out in the chat, because you guys have some pulses from the local radio shows and things.
And Jay Cross, when I say your coach is annoying and you say he's annoying because he's not your team's coach and my coach is Andy Reid, I promise you that is not the case.
Mm-hmm. No, I think he was talking to Keep Close because they're having a little discussion.
Oh yeah, just keep close.
That's fine. Sirianni's the worst.
Yeah. Well, I would say here's one thing that you would like. Philly is very quick on the trigger finger when it comes to coaches. If the Eagles shit the bed this year, I think he's gone. I think Sirianni's on the hot seat.
I think he was on the hot seat closely last year. Even after, it's wild. It's wild how quick the NFL works, right? Like you can make a Super Bowl. Everything's going right, and then like a year later, you're like, I mean, that's what they did with Johnson.
Yeah, Doug Peterson.
Sorry, Doug Johnson.
Yeah, they fired Doug Peterson
2 years after his dude won with Nick Foles.
And then it was 2 seasons. Yeah, they had 2 seasons after their Super Bowl win, and then he was gone.
Yeah.
What's
So
up,
at
Willie?
first, it looked like it was going to be a power struggle between one
SCG.
quarterback,
I was
and they
thinking
both
of
lost.
Doug Johnson, another backup quarterback back in the day, just like Doug Peterson was. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Doug Peterson was literally the OC for the Chiefs before he went to the Eagles. So I don't know what I was doing there.
J Cross says Kelsey handpicked his replacement. Well, how do you? So Eagles fans are stoked about it. People love it out there. Is that the move?
Did he just go across the planet and just be like, you
will play center?
Are you talking about their draft pick from like last year, like Jurgens?
Yeah. It looks like Jurgens is their starting center this year with Matt Hennessy as the backup.
Okay. That was Kelsey who picked him. That's another concern. Maybe you shouldn't have your active player drafting players for you.
I mean, he played guard last year.
He didn't play guard that well last year, to be honest. I think he'll be fine at center.
I'm sure you know all about that with the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick.
Didn't love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mahomes' personal pick.
Yeah, such a rough pick, and then we've struggled so much since then. Only 2 more Super Bowl wins. It's been hard. It's been rough.
It's been a rough road. It's been.
I don't know how we recover from this.
Not sure. Let me know though when you find out how you're gonna move on.
I think Jurgens will be a fine center. But let's acknowledge it's a downgrade. Okay, from Jason Kelsey. I'm not even saying he's gonna be bad. He might be perfectly average.
So they did also bring in a Devin White from the Bucks.
You're like Chris now. You don't listen when I say things like that.
Well, sometimes you go on rants, and it's easy to tune you out.
Said that pretty early on, but
okay. I've been listening to you the whole time, Scotty. I got you. You and me.
Thank you.
I got you. I listened to you.
But don't forget about the Eagles' new star quarterback, Kenny Pickett.
I don't think. Well, I mean, as long as Jalen Hurts stays healthy, I mean, this team, because we saw what happens when he's not healthy and things aren't looking good at the end of last season. Like we saw how that unfolded. So again, we hope that offensive line. It's a good offensive line, so hopefully it keeps him up. But
next to Lloyd Cushenberry, now I know that's Cuban, 100%.
Jurgens was the best center in the draft 2 years ago, says J Cross. So
I mean, okay. I mean, I don't think he was that good as a guard.
The Chiefs continue to prove themselves frauds.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes has failed the NFL and all fans.
Hey, 200 this time. 200. Thank you, Evil. Let's go.
Brought a lot of good factual points there. So fraudulent in their Super Bowl wins. I can't even. I like it. I'm disgusted as a fan of the team.
You should just.
They are.
Anyways, let's move on to the Cowboys before Sky goes back on another Chiefs.
That's from the science.
This is why we need to be in Discord so I can mute him for times like this.
Yeah. So so the Eagles will be good again. They're favored to win this division, -140. And they will be in the mix again as long as everyone stays healthy. But that team is just too talented not to be competing for a Super Bowl again in the NFC. Hurts went rogue last year because he didn't like the play calling. Go read Tim McManus' ESPN piece from last week. Okay, we'll check that out. Go take a look.
I mean, how does that? I mean, that'll be interesting. I don't love that in a quarterback, frankly. Because if he went rogue late in the year, that offense sucked the late part of the year. So don't do that again, Jalen. You don't have it figured out. Because if he went rogue, that offense was bad the last 6-7 weeks of the year.
So one last thing, real quick. As we move on to the Cowboys, little fun fact: there has not been an NFC East team to win back-to-back division titles since 03-04.
It's been a while. It's been a minute. I mean, we've been.
So will the Cowboys break the streak, or will they do what they always do and blow it?
Well, the Cowboys are in a similar spot, I think, of where they have been, right? Hey!
All right.
Let's go.
Rebel Jake!
Face is blocking it.
Yeah, get out of there, Rec. I can't even see whose name it is.
Rebel Jake, how we doing? Jake, who's your team and where you're from? Like to get to know you a little bit. Welcome into the Action Lab. Thank you for hitting that follow button. Guys, this is the best place to get NFL content on Twitch or anywhere else on live streaming platforms. Guys, make sure you're hitting the follow button just like Rebel Jake just did. Let's get to the Packer fan. Oh no, don't tell Milwaukee's. Don't tell Milwaukee.
Boy.
Hey, Rebel, wait. Before you say Rebel Jake, who's the best quarterback in Milwaukee right now?
In
Green Bay. Who's the best quarterback? So there's some rumors out there that the Big Red Dog is
some controversy. The Red Rocket.
There's some rumors that it's closer competition than people are saying. It's closer. Jordan Love. Okay.
Well, your resident fan that we have in here, Milwaukee's, was so mad at Jordan Love being a starter last year prior to the season. He was all on Clifford, the Big Red Dog, and I'm like, I think they're actually going to be better with Jordan Love than they were with Aaron Rodgers. I was laughed at. I was ridiculed. I think he threw spikes at my face. I don't remember for sure. But turns out I was right.
Turns out. Oh, it's right there. I am owner. Love sucks. See.
About being an owner, I could become an owner tomorrow. Is that what we're doing? Anyone here can be an owner of the Green Bay Packers for like $1 tomorrow.
So, anyways, let's go.
All right, let's talk to the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah,
they're stuck with Mike McCarthy again. They have contract problems with Dak and CeeDee Lamb. This team overall got worse, but hey, at least they brought back the All-Pro center.
Yeah. So Dallas and Scotty, this is your second favorite team, so you're obviously, you're rooting for them a little bit. But
is it a bandwagon? They've been kind of trash. I don't need a bandwagon team. My team wins.
They got arguably one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb, who's going to be a baller again. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott making his return. Last time we saw Ezekiel Elliott, he was getting bowled over at the line, hiking the ball.
That's the last time in Dallas.
In Dallas, yeah.
A year in New England.
Yeah. No, the last time in Dallas.
He was mid at best.
But
he's very mid.
It was one of the best clips I think I've ever seen in football. So he comes back. Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert still in the mix. Jake Ferguson, tight end.
Jalen Tolbert.
And still a really good defense. Obviously, Micah Parsons, absolutely incredible. DeMarcus Lawrence. You got on the back end Trayvon Diggs, and you got some pieces here. Rec, you were talking about a couple of them as well. They are right now in that 9.5 win total range. The over is the favorite, so people are high on them to get at least double-digit wins, which I think is going to be the case. And they could challenge the Eagles a little bit. We talked about the NFC last year in the middle of the season where we were looking. We were like, there's like 3, maybe 4 teams in the NFC that were competitive, that were you could legit see make a run. Now the Dallas Cowboys have that weird syndrome of not playing in the biggest games the way they need to. So that being said, they're going to win regular season games. That's how they've always done. Last year they were really good offensively. They put up a ton of points, especially at home. Their road home splits were a little funky, but their home, when they played, they absolutely just threw up points. And
except for the playoffs. Well, they put up points in the playoffs. So they just couldn't stop.
Just in garbage time.
Yeah, just in garbage time. But that being said, it's the same question we have every single year. Dak Prescott and this team with this coaching staff, are they able to win the big game? And that's what it comes down to.
And the answer has been a clear no. Listen, I've told my buddies who are huge Cowboys fans. I've said, I mean, you have so many contracts looming, right? You have Dax, you have CDs, you have Micahs. Your three best players have contract years looming, and that's why I think maybe, despite the roster being worse than it was last year, I think that's pretty clear. I think maybe the fact that these important pieces are having contract years, they will ball out to the point that like they win a ton of regular season games. Now, I think Dak has to get to an NFC title game. He's never made one, hasn't made an NFC championship game. I think if you won $60 million from the Dallas Cowboys, you got to prove yourself.
Win a playoff game.
You have not won. He's won playoff games, but he's never made an NFC championship game. That should be kind of like, I'm not paying you $60 million to be the quarterback. So it'll be super fascinating what they do with Dak after this year, because he is going to be a free agent. You have CD that they got to pay. I've said on stream I would pay CD before Dak, because I think CD's certainly a top 5 wide receiver in this league. Dak's not a top 5 quarterback in my mind in this league. And then you have Micah, who is a little bit crazy, not quite to a contract year, but still waiting to get paid and wants to get paid. But yeah, they lost pieces. They brought back Zeke at running back. I don't know what that's going to do. Tony Pollard.
It's him and Deuce Vaughn.
To be fair, Tony Pollard was terrible last year, so I don't think it's a big loss in that sense. Your offensive line, you did draft a kind of a raw tackle at Tyler Guyton, left tackle at Oklahoma in the first round. Hopefully he can eventually replace Tyron Smith, who was hurt a lot. So like, when everyone says it's like a huge loss, like Tyron Smith wasn't playing the playoffs by any stretch of the imagination. You did lose Dorrance Armstrong, who I thought was a nice edge off the other side. Even though you have DeMarcus Lawrence and obviously Micah Parsons to go with that. You do get Trayvon Diggs back. Trayvon Diggs obviously hurt early on last year, to go along with Deron Bland, who had a sensational season. So like 1-2 at corner, if nothing else, maybe the best playmaking corner pairing in the league by far. Like they're going to make some big plays and get some turnovers, right? Maybe the best turnover worthy corners in the league are both on the same roster. Now, will they give up some big plays to go with that? Yes, they will. Absolutely. I can acknowledge that. Dallas, I'm not as high on the Cowboys as I have been in other years. I just feel like the roster's deteriorated a little. It's getting a little older. You have these contract years, but like, enough is enough. Prove me wrong. Like, they're great at beating shitty teams by 30, but they get in a big moment in a big game. Even in the regular season, people think it's just playoffs. No, regular
season too.
Unless they're playing the Eagles, who they can beat from time to time. Any other good team, they lose to. It seems like
it's usually not close.
Damn time. And Dak doesn't play well. Now, the playoff game last year, Dak didn't play well to start, at least. He got some garbage numbers, but like, to be fair, the defense was a dumpster fire and didn't stop anything that Green Bay was trying to do. So there's more blame on the defensive side of the ball than maybe the offensive. But at the same time, like, be great. Don't go 3 and out the first 3 drives of the game or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm conflicted as like the Cowboys, having some buddies that are huge Cowboys fans and liking the Cowboys. I've never seen Dak in a mold of transcendent and winning Super Bowls necessarily. They are higher on him than I am. I think there's probably a lot of Cowboys fans that want to see him gone. So who knows?
It's a mixed bag.
It's just weird.
I think it's in their best interest to not pay Dak after this year.
I mean,
unless he does incredible things this year and goes on and does stuff that I can't envision, I would not pay $60 million for Dak Prescott.
But here's the thing. It's not like he's not putting... I mean, he's putting up numbers. He led the league at 36 passing touchdowns, finished 3rd passing yards with 4,516. Like, he's putting up numbers. It's just they're empty numbers. They're just empty stats. And it's like, we talk about that with Justin Herbert a little bit, empty stats. Like he could put up all these numbers and what does he have to show for it? But Dak's in that conversation of like, what have you done for me? When are you going to win me the big game? And we haven't had an answer to that. So
he's the Phil Kessel of football.
It's not great. Scott has had 3 kids since Dallas beat a good team.
Remember when I could say that I've had 3 kids since the Broncos beat the Chiefs? That was fun for so long.
Then we won our Super Bowl, and it was like, oh, we'll take it. Now we got to win our Super Bowl against. Yeah. It's bad
Russell Wilson won you your Super Bowl, and you wanted him gone as soon as possible.
Yeah, he needed to be out.
The team didn't want him to win that Super Bowl, or at least the front office didn't.
No, and we have another Super Bowl against the Raiders, which is depressing to say. We have to beat the Raiders. The fact that we have a losing streak with the Raiders, I've told you guys plenty of times, it's worse than having a 10-year losing streak to the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are actually good. Jay Cross, 2 playoff wins in 9 years for the Cowboys. Yeah,
that's
not acceptable. And they have good rosters. They have good rosters these years, too. They're not shit rosters. They're not like bottom of the league.
This is what happens when you're ran by Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy.
Maybe.
Mike McCarthy might be. I mean, this is his last year. Obviously,
it is. It's his last year unless they make it to the conference championship. It has to be.
And obviously, you lost Dan Quinn, who's been phenomenal for the defense. Now, not in that playoff game, but Dan Quinn was great. He gets another head coaching job. They bring in, I think, Mike Zimmer now.
Yep.
Obviously, was the longtime coach of the Minnesota Vikings. Been in higher, just unrelated roles for some teams since then. But he comes in. I've never liked McCarthy. I didn't like the McCarthy hire at the time. I didn't get it. I don't know. It's like, Jerry, you're dying. You might want to hire a good head coach. Maybe. Just maybe. Maybe not one that agrees with everything you spew out of your mouth.
Pretty much.
Maybe that's a good thing. You're senile and old. Listen to a guy that actually knows football, Jerry. God love Jerry. He's done amazing things for the NFL in general. Dude needs to just, I don't know.
Step away.
Yeah. Hasn't been working. I'll tell you that. So there you go. So that's when we're taking a look at this division from a whole, looks like it's top heavy with these top 2 teams, and it looks like the Eagles, top to bottom, seem like the team that should take this division, based off of the expectations and based off the roster, based off of what they have a track record of some success over the last couple of years with this roster. And these other teams, we got some stocks. Got Dallas stock falling. We got Washington stock rising. We got New York is just New York. So there you have it. That's the NFC East division preview.